Q's climate optimism continues. Before we get to the point, let me tell you a moral story about optimism. You see, back in March, I told myself, I'm going to get my hair cut right as soon as the COVID situation is over. Well, okay, let's get to the point. And here, back to Q's climate optimism. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to have reason for climate optimism in the face of a lot of political and opinion divide, especially after the tragic events in the US Senate. But I think I can find a few ways to look very positively upon the future. Now, this is in English, but it is focused on the Finnish political landscape and the Finnish society system. So if you're outside of Finland, this may not touch you as well, but maybe it'll give you another viewpoint. Anyway, let's get to it. So let's start with a classic. Cities versus, well, outside of cities, farmers and all that, landlubbers, whatever you want to call them. But basically, we have the urban areas, suburban areas, and then we have a great wide divide everywhere else. And sometimes the people in the cities are a little bit looking down at those farmers and everything, and the farmers are looking, what the heck are those city folks going on about? But, you know, the grand scheme of things, we know that agriculture is a major part of the solution and can be even a bigger part of the solution for that better tomorrow we want to build. And obviously here in Finland, we can most greatly affect our local farming and agriculture business. We have, of course, some way to affect EU and a tiny bit way to affect the rest of the world. But let's focus on here. And let's face it, all of us would prefer that the food we eat could come from somewhere closer, cleaner, with less pesticides and everything. And we know that food customs are changing all the time. They've always been changing. Here's some more good news. Farming industry, agriculture has constantly changed. In this country, we've seen so many great changes in the farms, and they are constantly happening. Alone, all the IT and technology changes that have come there, they're massive, and they are right at the top of their game. They are ready to change. We just need to keep a dialogue and remember to support in that change. Now, there's, of course, some fears that some farms are being forced to abandon their large investments or such, but these are fears and worries we can easily work on. And both, if you were living in the city or on a farm, you will want a future where you know that, well, let's put it basically, you will want a future. You will want to see a way that you'll be living and doing better in the next 5, 10 years. You'll want to build on that. Now, if we can support that constant change and evolution and prosperity out there, then we all win. And we have the greatest change, like I said, to affect that change. Now, one farm might do this and that and maybe go into poultry and biogas, and the other one will change and they'll go to organic farming. The third one will do something else, some kind of other energy revolution maybe, or other changes. It doesn't matter. There are so many solutions for a better future. We don't have to lock one answer and go with that. We can have hundreds of solutions going side by side, then we'll learn which are better, or maybe there's room for 50 different ways to go forward because they're all moves for the better. There's plenty of reason to be optimistic, excuse me, about agriculture and the future in our climate positivity scenario. Let's look at another one. Let's talk a little bit about day-to-day politics. Now, we have a lot of parties that we might even say that they don't completely agree with each other. How odd. We have the Finns against the Greens, and we have Social Democrats against the National Coalition Party, and yada, 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 yada. And they're all in differing opinions. But especially after what happened to the States, I have a lot of reason for positivity here. Now, all these parties, all the represented parties in our parliament have always said in no unclear terms, like if they weren't saying in English, it would be going with make no mistake. We will honor the election results. We will go with the results that come with the election. Nobody no major member of any major party has disputed this at any time. And that means they are going to differ with opinions, and that's great. Because let's zoom out for a little bit, and ask all these parties about, do they love and need the local nature being well? Do they love clean water, good air to breathe? Yes, they do. All of them want a clean future. Now, there's difference of opinion, and there's views about whether this change will be better in the long term and whatever, but the grand big picture is shared. Every party is green here, one way or the other. I know some might take a little bit offense of that, but come on, let's view this positively, shall we? And they're going to dispute, and they're going to have differences of opinion, and after the local elections here, we'll probably have one town going this way, another going that way, another that way. Doesn't matter if they're all good solutions, if they're all going to improve lives, improve nature, improve the climate. That's good. It's fine that we have so many different paths going, because the big picture is something we share. And we are so happy to have those differences of opinion being shouted. Maybe sometimes you could look at the wording a little bit and be a little bit more polite, but I mean, honestly, if we don't have disagreements, if we don't have skepticism, we don't have democracy. But we do have that, so we do have democracy. It's only in a dictatorship where you don't have room for another opinion, but we have room for them, and we have room for a scientific method, and that's going to help us all. Let's take one more here for the road, okay? So, the old folks versus the new folks. That's a classic. I mean, thousands of years of recorded history, man. Thousands of years of recorded history, and they've always said that, oh, those young ones they're just partying, and they have so horrible opinions, and they're not taking things seriously, and these days we have political parties and their youth sections, and they have opinions that really make the hair stand up. If you have a few of those, would you send them my way? It would be so much easier if my hair stood up. Anyways, what I'm saying is that it's an old classic that the young oppose the old. That's great, because that brings about change, and that brings about questions. Now, of course, sometimes something that the young generation says might not work out. Sometimes what the old generation says is that should have been abandoned half a century ago. And we're tossing these ideas, and we're forcing the other party, usually via the media, to discuss it and say, look at the pros and cons of this. You cannot keep an old way of going with 150-year-olds telling that, well, this is how it's always been done, because someone's saying that, no, you should look at this alternative way. And these 150-year-olds, they're going to have to answer and say, okay, well, we actually support our way because this and this. Then someone's going to do the math and see who's right and who's wrong. Hey, maybe they're both right. That wouldn't be a problem either. But the point is, it keeps thinking alive. Questioning keeps thinking alive. Thinking, well, keeps, for example, us alive. And it will give us plenty of reason to look optimistically at the future. So this is how I wanted to start, a little bit of tossing ideas here and there and seeing that even when it looks bad and even when someone has such stupid opinions, hey, I'm one of them, even with that, there is plenty of reason to look at climate future, nature's future with a great deal of optimism, a great deal of work, naturally, but optimism, we can do it, and you know even better, we are doing it. So with that, I will thank the people who have on social media suggested that let's keep Finnish political matters available in English as well. I'm going to take that challenge up and see what comes of it. But for now, let's say toodles.